when I was, I think in my late teens, maybe around my 20s, my mother told us about how we lost our Trinidad accents. So I'm from Trinidad originally, and when we were kids, we had very strong Trinidad accents. We spoke like any other Trinidadian. But we were sent off to a boarding school in England, and when we were living in Nigeria, and we came back, my mother said, with public school accents, speaking very, very posh English accents. And so I lost my Trinidad accent around the age of 9. And then we came to Scotland, and we went to school here, and that public school accent disappeared within a couple of days, and I picked up the Scottish accent very, very quickly. And so that, and then when eventually I got work, I left that kind of, yeah, I left, no, even between that, we went on holiday, and we have family in Barbados, so we went to see the family in Barbados, and we were staying somewhere, and it was a hotel, and it had a gym, so I would go to the gym, and one day I went in, and the person at the desk said, "I'm sorry, you can't come in." I was like, "What?" She said, no, you can't come in. I was saying, "Why can't I come in?" And she says, "Locals can't get in." I was thinking, locals? And I hadn't realized it, but I was speaking to the people from Barbados, Bajans, and I'd picked up the Bajan accent. Within a week or so, I just kind of picked up the accent of what's going on there. And so I had to say, no, I'm actually a guest here, and this is my room number. It's okay, fine, so I could get in. When I left to, when I was trying to discern my vocation, I went to live in England. And the people I was living with, it was a religious community, mixed lay men, women, brothers and religious sisters. They said that when I'd got off the phone with my parents, I'd be speaking with a Scottish accent for about half an hour afterwards. So evidently I'd picked up an English accent while I was down there. And then when I came back after spending a few years in Manchester, there was a lady called Margaret Duncan, and she said, "Father, you've picked up a real good, strong Manchester accent, Cheshire Manchester accent." I didn't realize I'd done. So I seem to pick up accents. Now I've got this thing, whatever this thing is, but I seem to pick up accents quite quickly. And I suspect it's because it's the desire to fit in, to blend, and to be the same as everyone else. You know that feeling? Just, I want to be one of you, and so my voice will change, and I'll sound like one of you. That's what'll happen. And so certainly I try not to do it anymore, but that certainly was one of my ways I behaved. But it can also become a way of behavior for not only ourselves, but for the church in general. We want to be like everyone else. And so our behavior, our voice, the way we speak becomes like everyone else, so that we would be accepted by them. And so we have to look at Jesus and to see, is that what Jesus did? Is that how Jesus behaves? He's sitting with tax collectors and prostitutes, with sinners, and the accusation of the scribes and Pharisees is, see, he eats, he's what is it, one of the phrase, he is let's see, there's a quote from, I think later on in Matthew's Gospel, where they're accusing John the Baptist of not eating and drinking, and therefore he's possessed, but Jesus comes eating and drinking. He's a friend of tax collectors and sinners. And so the implication is, because Jesus is sitting with them and eating with them, he is one of them. He is like them. He behaves like them. Is that the case? Is that what Jesus does? Of course he doesn't. We all know that. We know that Jesus is the light of the world. He's come to bring light into darkness. Where he is, light shines and things change around him. He doesn't change to become like the environment he's in, but he changes the environment. And we see that in Capernaum. Jesus is preaching in Capernaum. In this gospel, he's with the call of Matthew, the tax collector in Capernaum, this man who is a religious outcast. He's seen as a Gentile, untouchable, somebody that any decent Jew wouldn't want to have near them. He's in Capernaum, and this is where Jesus begins his preaching. This is where Jesus makes his base. So Matthew is around when Jesus is preaching. He's heard the words of Jesus. Matthew's around when Jesus works his miracles of healing. Matthew's around when Jesus casts out demons. He's around, he's seeing this, he's hearing other people talk about it, and something is going on. Jesus is the light of the world in Capernaum. He's starting to change things in Capernaum, and his light is beginning to shine on Matthew. Matthew is starting to see the light and start to look towards it. So much so that when Jesus calls, Matthew is thirsting. He wants to enter into the light. He wants to leave the darkness. He doesn't want to be that man anymore. He wants to be this new man who is living in the light for all the world to see. And Jesus doesn't care. He doesn't care about Matthew's past. He doesn't care about the stigma that he will receive, because he's now got this man with him, this outcast, this person who nobody will want with them. He's now with Jesus, which implies that Jesus, what's the phrase about friends? You can tell who a man is by the company he keeps. Jesus is with the sinner. Jesus is now eating with the sinner. That's the sort of man he is. But he's not like us. He doesn't morph, blend, act the chameleon to become like others. He is the just man. He is truth. He lives his life with integrity. His words and his actions go hand in hand. He does not change to please others. And so when others come into contact with him, he doesn't change, they do. As with Jesus, so with us. We do not change to become like the world. We come into contact with Jesus and are filled with his light. And his light changes the environment around us. We are filled with his love, and his love changes the environment around us. We do not change. We should not change. But we should help others to change. Not with the wagging finger of the Pharisees, but with love, with mercy, with forgiveness.